Hey everybody, welcome back to Command Value 1, Season 2, Episode 2. We're going to talk a lot about Errata. So tonight we will not be joined by Don, just because we're not sure, but we may not have nice things to say, and we didn't want to put him in a situation where we had to be like, hey, talk about your work, defend what we don't like. And it's just not fair to him. So we kicked him off.
I like to think that he's hobbled and the phone is just out of reach and he can't make the conversation.
No. We replaced Don. We did a 2-for-1. We brought in Overlord Shivak. And we brought in the Swede.
Hi there.
And, of course, as always, we have Jordan. Now, the interesting thing about this group is if you look in your Battle for Earth book under playtesters, we're all listed there. So we had a lot of experience. I don't know about you guys. I started in on the playtest group when Andy Chambers, when Andrew Chesney was still with Hawk War Games, and Hawk was still a thing. That's when I got in on beta work for version 2. I don't know, Josh. When did you become a version 2 beta dude?
Apparently, if you make really bad memes, you get invited to the group. So it would have been December, November, somewhere around there.
All right. And Patrick, you were in there pretty early on because you did like that stone throw from Don.
Exactly. So Don dragged me into this.
And Jordan, you got in pretty much the same time I got in, right?
Yeah, you dragged me in.
Yeah. So all of us went through the original Hawk version 2 early testing, the alpha testing, if you will. And then as a transition over to TT happened, we were there with the public beta release and all the... Cricky's already in on this, man.
I love Cricky.
I think he's a dick. We were there for the public beta release, the MGT releases, the Adepticon releases, the Gen Con releases, all the various updates to that public beta we were involved in and making decisions on with a handful of other guys in the group. And then the way I understand it was that information was compiled and taken, and TT went and wrote the version of Battle for Earth that we got to see shortly before it went to print, where we got to make some, we got to review the draft copy briefly, and then it was out, and then we got this book. And we were involved in a small part in offering opinions on the Errata. Does that sound accurate? Offering opinions on the Errata?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, I would agree.
So here we are now. At the end of the day, it's not like just us bitching. It's us offering what we think is our somewhat educated opinion on stuff, because, we've been involved in this process for a year or two or more, just getting to see how all this has evolved. So,
well, I don't think there's going to be... Well, I mean, there might be some bitching, but there are some good gems in Battle for... I'll say gems like they're rare, but there are some good changes. I mean, there are parts of it that I really do enjoy.
Oh, I agree with you. I'm looking at our episode guide here, and I'm kind of just at the point of saying, you know what, screw this, let's throw it out, and let's not talk about what's new and all that bullshit, and let's just get straight into this and make this episode solely about rules and errata and opinion and just go. Do we just want to do that?
Sounds good.
Well, let's just jump right in. Do you guys have your books out in front of you? Do you have your errata out in front of you? Are you...
If not,
yes.
I have my errata out in front of me.
Yes.
If not, I'm a nerd. I have all of my stuff right here on my table ready to go. So the errata is only one page, which surprised me. Of course, in pre-show we were discussing, and what was you said, Josh? The rules are only like 12 pages, so...
Yeah, I think if you knock out like the map or the scenarios, the rules for I keep calling Battle for Earth, for version 2, I think it's only like 14, 15 pages once you take out scenarios.
Yeah, it's not what you would call robust, eh?
Yeah. And it should also be noted that by intent, it also excludes any behemoth changes or errata points.
Yeah, there's not a lot of point in talking about behemoths. We've got the core rules for it, but we don't have public stats to look at and discuss. So if we jump into the errata, it delves straight in. The first thing in it is embarking and disembarking on page 263. So change first sentence in the paragraph to if a squad is in coherency and all units end their moving action within 2 inches of a transport in the same battle group, it may embark into transports providing their transport values match. That is a mouthful. They had to change that because, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it originally that if any squad in the unit was within 2 inches, so you could have a squad stretched out like 14 inches and they could also get picked up by the same transport?
Yes.
Right, and they would get hoovered up, and then you could move them off elsewhere, and yeah.
Good change, needed to happen. Just missed. The next one, change the last sentence, paragraph 3. After the units embark or disembark, the aerial transport can choose to take off again, continuing its moving action as normal.
Yeah, the problem here from the beginning was that it says that the aerial transport ended its movement at that point, which would make it stranded on the ground after it dropped things off. So by adding this, it meant that it can drop something else off and then take to the air again.
Yeah, that mobility is kind of required for transport to be at all useful.
Yeah.
Next up is page 263 still, shooting at transports. Change the second sentence to, on a 3, there is no effect, but on a 2 or 1, each unit embarked suffers an energy 10 automatic hits.
Yeah, the change there, of course, is that before it was on a 1, nothing happens, and 2, 3, you suffer that many hits. So it's a little bit nicer to the people inside of transports.
Yeah.
Right, because you were always taking 2 to 3 hits as opposed to 1 or 2.
Yeah, we had an Alexander take a hit when Jordan and I played the other day.
That being said, it's still far less deadly than it used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, you used to be scared to get your transport shot down. Now, an energy 10 hit on an infantry squad. Oh no, I might lose a couple of dudes. I'm going to race Tritons right up the middle of the board. And then I'm going to jump Valkyries out of them. Page 264, aircraft changed the last sentence in the third paragraph to, quote, all flight stands should be between 60 and 70 millimeters tall. End quote. I'm going to come out straight because this made me think, and I'm going to say that I have a problem with this, and it's just extra bookkeeping and stupid. Just measure to the flight stand. I mean, God's honest truth, the worst case you add, an inch to the range?
Yeah.
Wasn't it Aaron that sat down and actually mathed it out and said at its longest possible range, the most it added was an inch?
So I think the problem here is maybe not as much the distance that you, of course you can work with it, but it's more about that you can model for cover and things like that to make your things really close to the ground to get cover easier and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you use the old small flight, short flight stands.
Yeah.
But there needs to be some clarification regarding terrain and cover anyways. This is a conversation that Jordan and I had over the weekend, and we can get into that after we go over the errata, I guess.
That was a nice video.
You like
Everybody should go watch that on GamerDrek's YouTube page.
Oh, look at the Scald channel cross-promoting.
Wow.
I'm going to apologize if you guys hear any weird crunches or sloshy sounds from me. I got hammered by a cold today, so I'm actually crunching on a cough drop as we do this to not hack at you. So, page 264, landing. Paragraph 2, remove the second sentence. Well, Christ, I don't even know.
Now you can hug buildings when you land. It used to be you had to be 2 inches further, or you had to be 2 inches away from the building, so you couldn't scoot up behind a building, land to drop people off.
That's not a bad change at all.
No, because it actually stopped aircraft from directly deploying things into buildings. So
because you're measuring center to center.
Yeah.
So 264, shooting at aircraft, change the last sentence in the second paragraph to, quote, on a 3 there is no effect, but on a 2 or a 1, each scenery piece and unit, friendly and enemy, within that many inches measured horizontally get hit by the wreckage and suffer an energy 10 automatic hits.
Basically the same reason as the shooting the transports.
Yep. All right. And then still on page 264, shooting at aircraft. Change the last paragraph to, quote, if an aerial transport has embarked units and is destroyed, immediately disembark those units. They follow these rules for damage instead of the rules for destroying transports and are always considered to be in range. What? Change the last paragraph. Okay, so the original paragraph is, if an aerial transport has embarked units, they follow these rules instead of the rules for destroying transports.
Yep.
If an aerial transport has embarked units and is destroyed, immediately disembark those units. They follow these rules for damage instead of the rules for destroying transports. Okay. Thank God I had the book out, because that is making no sense.
Because the first time without the errata, you don't have actually any specification what happens to the units in the transport.
Right.
Because the rules don't say you should be doing this with the units. It only says that everything within these many inches will be hit, but it doesn't say anything about the units themselves. So this is needed so you can actually do something with them.
So on page 268, we bounce over to soft cover, and targets within 1 inch is the book. They change it to 2 inches in the errata. Just expands the use of soft cover.
Yeah.
Body cover, I believe they do the same thing. Yeah, they change it from 1 inch to 2 inch. No, they don't. Targets in or within 1 inch of body cover and part of +1 penalty damage roll.
Yep. So you get the change for soft cover, but not body cover.
Yeah. Body cover is unchanged from the book.
Yeah.
Rolls weapons, providing body covers between them and the shooter. The thing it does change is it removes the body cover cannot be used against CQ weapons. Does that mean body cover can now be used against CQ weapons?
Well, I don't. CQ weapons is always base to base. Well, I guess if it's infantry CQ weapons, there's no accuracy value on them anyway. But on the vehicle CQ weapon, it's a different story.
Well, there shouldn't really be any more vehicle CQ weapons.
There should never be vehicle CQ weapons.
But
that's an opinion, at least.
But they still.
This would allow for it, yes.
Like, I think they've changed all the ranges on the vehicle CQ weapons, but they're still listed as CQ.
No, I think they picked up the melee. Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah, they should have. Unless we missed someone.
They could have done a refresh on the unit stats since I looked last. It might have been kind of.
Well, last time you looked was this past weekend, and I don't think they've refreshed since then.
Yeah, they're all listed as melee now instead of CQ.
And for infantry, you can't get the cover between two guys if you're in CQ. So.
Well, it wouldn't matter. Soft cover wouldn't matter anyway at that point.
Body cover, I'm thinking. So the penalty to damage rolls on weapons require the body cover to be between the two, the shooter and the target. And in CQ, you don't have it between you.
Right.
Alrighty. Well, bouncing on to the next one, page 268, destructible, one of the last paragraphs. What they change is they add when destructible piece of scenery with 9 or more starting damage points is destroyed.
Yeah.
Roll D3. That just makes it so, like, if a barricade gets blown up, then someone isn't just destroyed.
Yeah. So you can do some smaller things that...
Well, no, a barricade would still trigger that. Oh no,
BFEs only have
they're
5
only
damage.
5. Yeah, no, I was looking at the armor stat.
But the wheat field would.
Ha!
Hey, it's burning really hot.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet lord.
Yeah. It's okay with a tiny building, but beware the wheat fields.
Children of the corn, right?
Yeah.
Sheesh.
Don't come here doing any signs in the cornfields.
I've not actually seen that movie.
It's pretty good. It's
Let's
outdated.
see.
Yeah.
269. Add following to the last paragraph. Any piece with 8 or fewer starting damage points is simply removed. So,
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious. 269 features remove tough from forests. Forests are no longer tough. When the forests get tough, the tough get going. Wait, no, that's going.
So that just means people can drive through forests and not get hindered.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because I'm reading Citizen Soldier by Stephen Ambrose right now, and they're talking about all the forests that these tanks could not drive through.
Well, this is the future.
I
Forest of the
saw
future are wide open.
I saw a documentary about the Blitzkrieg through the Ardennes, and apparently they could drive through it.
You know, it's interesting, though, because, like, the Ardennes forest is, like, a nicely planted forest. It's, like, straight rows of trees. It's really bizarre.
Yeah. That's because they bombed it.
What was that?
That's because they bombarded it. Had to replant it to still call it a forest.
All right, what do we got next? Destructible.
We did
no.
Features
Bloodthirsty. Yeah. 296. Oh, I gotta skip forward a few pages. 296. Bloodthirsty. I don't have a unit with Bloodthirsty. What's Bloodthirsty do? Talk to me.
That's making it harder to pick up an objective. So it was worded previously that being bloodthirsty made you better at finding objectives.
It suffers a +2 penalty when searching for objectives. Nice. Holy shit, yeah. Razor worms know how to find objectives. But they don't. Now
that would be the whatchamacallit, the
Visitors.
Visitor, yeah, them.
And Berserkers.
Old ones.
Old ones, yeah. Yeah, the razor worms have a living weapon, which means they can't search.
Oh. Weird. Why can't a razor worm search? All they have to do is listen for the rhythmic steps of the objective.
I must say, I much rather like the idea that they could search for the objectives but not pick them up.
With their whole lack of hands?
Yeah.
Well, if one is to look at the rules, they can apparently call down behemoths.
Yeah.
They scream really loud, and the behemoths get signaled.
So here I was thinking that Scourge was signaling with chemicals. So I was thinking they were farting really badly in the direction of the enemies, like a Frenchman on the walls.
Man, my brain just like. I was gonna talk serious drop zone fluff here for a minute. Razor worms have a scourge parasite in them, right? I mean, they're just so a razor worm is just as competent and capable as any other host body, right?
We've had this conversation with Dave. Yeah. There is no scourge body shaming.
But do you really think that the sharpest knife in the box gets a razor worm body?
No, they get stuffed in an invader.
Yeah.
Well, apparently not, because invaders are like badass at finding objectives now.
Yeah.
So maybe now they get stuffed in intruders.
Yeah.
Despoilers.
You know what? You can all talk all the shit you want about Despoilers, but that's one of the best models in the game.
I love that thing.
Yeah.
CD rack of doom. Put double plasma cannons on the underside of that thing. It's a badass. All right. So Bloodthirsty went -2. 297, Infiltrate. A unit deploying using this rule may not be deployed in a transport. A unit that does not have this rule that is deployed in a transport with this rule deploys with the infiltrating transport. That's a mouthful. Is there any infiltrating transports out there?
No, but it feels like a little bit of future-proofing. Or, drills are not infiltrating, right?
Drop pods.
Yeah.
PHR drop pods. I mean...
Predators.
Well, and it could just be making clearer language in that, sappers can't start 18 inches on the board inside a bus already.
I will have you know that this book is written by English people. They don't speak English. They don't speak American.
Merkin.
What do they speak? The Queen's tongue?
The Queen's English?
They're speaking in tongues, yes.
English.
Page 298 in paragraph 8, change squad to unit. Man, really?
Are we doing anti-aircraft now?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty obvious one. Resolve each squad one by one. It's supposed to be each unit one by one when you reaction fire.
Yeah.
Page 300, strafing. Change the second and the last sentence. You may target the same unit multiple times, because before you couldn't, could you?
Nope.
Yeah.
Or it was unspecified.
Yep. It says change the second to last sentence. No, this is too much like Math Zone.
So strafe was one of those confusing changes
you target
from
the
version
same unit.
1.
It says you target the same unit multiple times in the book. You may target the same unit multiple times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am not sure that I'm crazy about the changes to strafe. It was very simple and concise in version 1, where you had 3 shots and you could strafe them up to 3 inches.
Yeah.
I feel like strafe was one of those changes for the sake of changing something. And if I'm being completely honest about version 2, there's a lot of changes in version 2 that I feel like are changes for the sake of changing something.
Yeah.
And I think that's my biggest gripe with version 2.
I'm not opposed to the new strafe. It's just when I was first looking at the rules, I'm going strafe. Okay, it's doing this. It's doing this, and I think it was Chris who pointed it out to me. No, that's not what strafe does. And I went back and reread strafe. I'm like, oh, missed that.
Well, I really liked it. I really liked it at first when they had the Hades with shot 3, strafe 3 on the rail repeater. I'm like, no, I can get right behind this rule. I can use 9 energy 12 shots a turn off my Hades. I can handle that. And then they fixed the Hades, and I'm like, well, I don't give a shit for it now.
Yeah. The Strike Hawk had 6 shots.
Don't bring up that fucking Strike Hawk.
The world's best flying machine.
That transport that's armor heavy and DP heavy with shit tons of missile shots, that's still a transport, even though my heavy transport's a heavy. I built a list this past weekend and I didn't take a Nord because it was a waste of time to take a Nord.
You can barely take one.
You can bring it up with Dave when you see him next month. Oh wait, never mind.
Yeah, you're not going to be there either, smartass. But I'm still going to podcast with them, so hopefully. Yeah. Don Jordan and I were talking about that last episode, so I'm hopeful that we'll get Dave on the horn and I'll be able to ask him, what did you do to my game, and why are you fucking my transport, Dave?
What would you say? Keep it civil.
I
just
will.
went PG-13.
Yeah.
As I told Don last time, the last 5 episodes have explicit tags, and I don't see a reason to. I don't know any children that are listening to Command Value 1. I barely know any adults that are listening to Command Value 1, so I figure.
I think Kirill's son might be listening every now and then.
Oh my god, if that's the case, then Alex, I'm sorry. You're a good kid, you play Republic, I like you. Keep it up, son, you're doing a hell of a job.
I was trying to convince him to run a double Remus list for Michigan GT.
I remember Don saying explicitly to me, the first jackass that brings a double Remus list to the MGT, he's going to nut punch. So perhaps you should consider an athletic supporter.
So I'm not bringing it. It's Alexander.
Well, I want to be there to watch him nut punch a 14-year-old kid.
I want
I
to
don't
see
think
him
he's got
battle
the
with that
stones
moral
for
dilemma.
I don't think he's as Cobra Kai as he thinks he is.
Well, first he needs to hobble close enough.
So moving on to the FAQ. I've got a few things highlighted that apparently piqued my interest when I was prepping for this a couple of days ago.
So before moving into it too much, I feel that a lot of the things, there were more things that could have been errata, but were solved by adding a extensive FAQ entry for it instead. So it's when we say that errata is just one page, yeah, but FAQ handles a lot of things that could have been under that umbrella as well.
I am initially I thought the errata was going to be a lot bigger. A lot of it did get cleaned up with these changes. So I was skeptical at the one-page errata, but yeah, as Patrick said, the fact does clean up a lot as well.
And I will say, because it's important, it sounds like I take a dump on version 2 a lot, and I'm not trying to do that. Playing with Cordo the other day, I found that it is playable. Our turn 1 was fraught with referencing the rulebook, referencing the errata. Why is this like this? Getting through and figuring out why some things were changed. But we played it.
We were both kind of because it was your first version 2 game.
My first big game.
Yes.
I mean, I've run about 20 demos.
There was and I tend to do this a lot of intentional overanalyzing of, okay, is this how it is, or read it again? Does it work this way or that way?
Part of the problem is that the book itself is really badly written from a organization standpoint.
The bolded words are not the bolded words I would choose in most situations.
Yeah, and very inconsistent. And you have rule texts that are connected together by rules, but not connected together by referencing or pages or paragraphs, so that you need to flip between a lot of pages to find what's actually happening and following the happenings.
I think what's really telling about the book is if you go to page 2 and you look at the credits, you'll find that there's no editor listed.
Yeah.
And
crickets.
Yeah, we should get Cricket to do that.
Cricky's all about that shit. He's got spectacular comedic timing.
Yeah.
I think so many of the problems with Battle for Earth come down to the fact that it just looks and feels rushed.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot that a solid month of review and maybe even some additional testing would have cleaned up. And it frustrates me as someone that had been involved in playtesting so long that wasn't an opportunity that we had.
Yeah.
But fact it. Let's talk about it.
Hey, but the rulebook does look nice.
It's pretty, and
I like it.
It's got a lot of fluff that I still haven't finished reading in it. It's got a lot of gorgeous Patrice art. I mean, it is a nice looking book. But Cricky's all over it now. He's like, I'm gonna sing the song with the people.
Silence you.
All right, on to the FAQ.
This is my show now. Okay, so this is I highlighted this because this is one of the things that drives me absolutely nuts. Can weapons with a move fire value of 0 fire after disembarking? The answer, no. Okay, very clear. Good. Thank you. Disembarking action applies all penalties to shooting for the unit's activation. This means the unit has, quote, moved, end quote, for the purpose of move and fire 0-inch weapons. That's fine. That's absolutely fine, except that I'm skipping over here. On the next page, it says, can a ground transport scan the turn it is disembarked, providing it didn't move after disembarking? And it says, yes. If it did not use its own movement action to disembark, a ground transport can use both its actions to generate a scan token. If the ground transport uses its own movement action to disembark, it may not generate a scan token, as it only has one action left, even if it does not move during it. So, my problem with that contradiction is on page 263 under embarking and disembarking. Squads may choose to either embark into or disembark from a transport as part of their movement. So
what this is talking about, though, is that aerial advantage transport. So what it is you'd get the aerial transport to drop off for free.
Mm-hmm.
So then that technically counts as being dropped off, but not for shooting.
So a bus can never search because it's not coming off an aerial transport.
Correct.
Yes.
Take that, Resistance.
It could search the second turn, but it couldn't search the same turn.
Yeah.
So where in version 1 you would never really load up and take your APCs and your medium drop ship, there's a really good reason in version 2 to load up on infantry, throw them in the APCs, get those medium drop ships, and put them on the table.
Even if you forget about the fact that medium transports are much, much faster than small, fast transports.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Turn 1 they are.
Yeah.
But with the free drop off past turn 1 they're not.
Yeah. But turn 1 is the only thing that matters.
How do I use a weapon with multiple Devastator values? Do we need to go over this? This is pretty self-explanatory.
No.
Should I measure range and line of sight from and to aircrafts from the center of the shooting to the center of the aircraft model diagonally up in the air or horizontally? So I am perfectly fine with measuring, with determining line of sight diagonally. It's measuring range that just seems stupid.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that makes me feel like they never actually went to the table and did it. I mean, am I the only one that feels that way? That it's like, have you ever tried to like run your tape measure up diagonally from your saber or from
I
your
agree.
rapier up to?
Yeah.
I seem to recall there was a reason why this was put in. It's just escaping me right now.
It was put in because it was a change for the sake of change. No, I'm sorry. That's me being facetious.
For when you're flying on top of a building that's less than 6 inches tall?
I mean, I forget. I seem to recall having this discussion before, and I want to say Aaron pointed out why it was there. That Aaron, he's a smart guy.
Why the hell isn't Aaron on the show tonight?
I don't know. I took his spot.
He's probably
Aaron?
He's probably working right now.
He doesn't actually work. I mean, let's make sure we're air quoting when we say that about. Is damage from a CQ weapon always distributed between the whole target squad, even if it isn't inside of a garrison? If yes, can I destroy a unit out of coherency with the target squad on the other end of the board because it is the most damaged one? The answer is yes.
Take a breath. This is probably the most talked about issue of version 2, right?
I don't know. You told me to take a breath. Did you want me to shut up?
Well, no. I just for the gravity of the situation is that this is the one that everybody's going to be talking. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry,
but this is minimized by CQ weapons on vehicles getting changed to melee.
For the most part, yes.
Because if infantry is the only thing left that has CQ and all infantry is base-to-base coherency, it takes some skillful doing.
I mean, so you're in a realistic game of Drop Zone. You're really not going to be sending out waves of infantry to go blow up tanks. Traditionally, I mean, yes, there's going to be some oddball scenarios, but even if they do that,
You say that.
I say that.
And the problem is when we're talking about Drop Zone in version 1.1, you had a hard sci-fi universe that doused itself in some hearty verisimilitude. We don't have that anymore. It does not make sense to take walkers when I can use those points to take more immortals because they're just as good, if not better.
Yeah.
I mean, they shoot farther.
They shoot farther, but they have 2 DP versus 5 DP, and they can't get up board nearly as quick, and they can't find objectives.
Yeah, but so, okay, you make your play with your immortals beating something up in close combat. There's so many machine guns, chain guns sitting around that all these other weapons outside of Scourge, people have just slapped onto their transports.
Yes, we're thinking what kind of Scourge are you playing?
It's not like those infantry are going to survive the next turn. So it is going to be a desperate move.
I don't know. I had 4 Valkyrie murder a Skull Taker.
Yeah.
Well, then Jordan is terrible.
No.
No, but I agree there that the sort of the power level of the infantry units have run away a little bit with it.
Now, and the justification given for that is because it gives them a fighting chance to do something to behemoths, which I find, again, to be a scary statement, because if behemoths are going to be so ass powerful that we have to break a core unit to give your armies a fighting chance, we already have a problem with behemoths before they've hit tables.
Yeah.
Well, that and now Valkyries are efficient at having, multiple like energy 10 AA shots now.
Yeah.
And it's not just them, it's every infantry.
Yeah.
And I brought this up to Jordan. This drives me just absolutely insane that Sirens have SMGs until they go into a building, and then they have to drop their SMGs and pull out their combat SMGs so they can get in close quarter battle. And the Immortals do the same thing. They have assault rifles that they drop for close combat rifles. And it's just stupid. I mean, I'm just being blunt and sharing my opinion here, but that is one of those what you see is what you get scenarios where it just kind of shatters the illusion of the game for me. Why not just give the Immortal Assault Rifle CQ as a special ability, which means you can use it in close quarters and you can use it as a regular assault rifle and end of list. The only units that you have to add CQ weapons for are flak teams, mortar teams, long reach teams, the guys that don't clearly have an assault weapon going into a room.
Yeah. Those guys that actually have sidearms that you pull out when people get too close.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Oh man, we got derailed there.
But I think that the big problem with this FAQ point has always been that you can stand next to a unit and you can kill something that is 10 inches away in the same squad as that unit that you're touching with your battle axe.
Which is damn silly.
Because you damage the squad as a whole. But you need only be in range of 1.
So the good thing is they admit that, yep, that's a problem. The bad thing is the solution is this is something we'll be keeping an eye on.
Yep.
If it becomes too much of a problem, we'll make adjustments in the future to balance it.
Well, like I said, I don't think thematically it's kind of dumb, but I just
kind of?
don't. But I don't think it's going to be that much of an issue. Who knows? 6 months from now, when the next errata is out or whatever balance pass, we'll see. But I just don't see it. Besides being wonky, is really game breaking.
When embarking/disembarking, what unit performs the action? The currently activated unit is the one performing the action. Only aerial transports may embark or disembark its occupants as part of its own movement when it lands. All other units embark and disembark during their own activations. If they embark into a landed aerial transport, it may take off and move as normal during its activation.
That's just better explaining.
Yep, and that's fine, and that's great. But it also takes me right back to if I bring in a crossbow on a Raven B, I disembark the crossbow as part of my Raven's movement. The crossbow has not moved, but it cannot fire.
Correct.
That's
You nailed it.
That's contradictory rule writing.
It's a little bit funny here. So the currently activated unit is the one performing the action. But do you count as all other units embark and disembark during their own activation? But if you drop it off, if you go back to the first point, then they are not disembarking; it's someone else disembarking for them.
Right.
Yeah, but they do count as having disembarked.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, if the answer to that is, oh, well, yes, any unit that disembarks counts as moving, except for ground transports, as they can still use their scan if they don't. If you're going to write that in as a special rule that makes that unit special and unique, okay, fine, cool, but you got to do that. You can't sit here in the errata and with no justification say, this unit moved, but this unit didn't, for the sake of reasons.
Well, but technically, that is how it's worded in the errata, or I'm sorry, in the main rule book. There is that distinction between the aerial stuff. So this is just more of a housekeeping item on it.
I'm sorry. Restate what you're stating because I don't understand what you're saying.
It from what is written in Battle for Earth. They're just clarifying what's written in Battle for Earth. This isn't like new rules or anything. It's something people were overlooking.
Yeah, I think that part of the issue here is that there is two things. There is a movement action and there is a status that is having moved. So you can get the status of having moved without performing a movement action.
Right.
And so it's you can when you gain that status, there are certain limitations. For example, you can't move and fire zero weapons, fire those weapons at the same time.
Can a squad disembark, then move, then embark into another transport? And the answer is yes, as long as the disembark was not part of their moving action.
So again, this is manipulating the
Yes.
free disembark with the aerial transport. And this kind of was a change with the errata, right? Like originally with version 2, aerial transports could not do
that. No, they could. Really, the only thing that got changed was more that landing within like 2 inches of buildings, I think, with the aerial transports.
Or is it just the wording now that it was infantry couldn't use a light transport to go from one building to another? And now the language allows it?
No, I don't think you can do the hopping. I don't think you can hop out of a building into another.
The light transport cannot suck the infantry out? You can't use a free embark with the aerial transport to pull infantry out of a building?
I think, isn't that one of the next fact questions?
I don't know. Let's move on. Do unit special rules take effect while a unit is being transported? Units do not have access to their special rules while in a transport. For all intents and purposes, they are not on the board and have no effect on it until they are disembarked or placed on the board. For example, you gain no benefit from a Shaltari shield relay while the unit is in holding. Commanders are not special rules and are still able to use command cards while embarked on a transport on the board. In this case, you would use the transport as the point of origin for the commander's command radius. Would you have to measure the command radius diagonally to the unit on the ground?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, you would.
If it's an aerial transport, I suppose so.
So having a higher view of the battlefield is actually a detriment to your command radius. Take that, stupid real-world generals.
They're afraid of heights.
They're afraid of heights. That's why they drop out of orbit. Can a squad disembark, then move, then enter a garrison? If yes, why is it stated in the rules that a squad can enter a garrison directly from a transport? Yes, as long as it ends its movement within 2 inches of an entrance.
Because garrisons automatically suck you up.
Garrisons automatically suck you up. Can an aerial transport pick up a unit, move, then disembark that unit in the same activation? No. Really? Does that seem weird to anybody else? The aerial transport only has one free embark-disembark action. However, the move is possible using the unit's activation too. The other embark-disembark must be done during the unit's activation. Also, once activated, a unit cannot activate again, so plan this move carefully. I'm not going to read the example, but so it gets a free embark or disembark, so it can pick you up or put you down. But then you have to use your move action to be picked up or put down.
But part of it, I think, is have this discussion with the guys, and the important distinction is that you can't suck an infantry out of a garrison by the free embark action, for example, here. It's one of the things where it becomes really weird when you start adding gates to this as well, mainly.
So the unit has to disembark the building.
Yes.
Which
Then
would
your
eat
spirit-
its move action.
Yeah.
Right, but then the spirit gate can pick that unit up.
Yeah.
And then the haven gate across the board can use its free embark to push them into the building.
Yes, but then they can't activate
Search,
again.
because they've already activated, right?
Yeah. Because
But
that's what I talked to them about, say that, but if you consider a unit within 2 inches, if it's in a building, then can I land within 2 inches of that building and suck them up into that and then throw them out on the other side of the board and then activate them without having done anything, so they can search and disembark into a transport again, for example.
Stupid shelter.
Yeah. So, but he, I don't think he clarifies it anywhere here, but it was clarified that a unit is not considered within 2 inches if it's inside a garrison for the purposes of embarking.
But it is for throwing out an objective.
Yeah, that has not been clarified.
Can a ground transport scan the turn it is disembarked, providing it did not move after disembarking?
Yes, if it was kicked out. If it was kicked out.
And didn't move.
Yeah.
Anything beyond the 2 inches it was kicked out.
So if the driver was having a coffee while that asshat for a fly pilot dropped him off, then he can do it.
All I gotta say is I've seen Aliens, and I am pretty sure those drop ships never just drop off the APC. It actually tears its ass out of there. Can scan tokens be used to find a hidden objective inside a garrison? Because on page 280 under objectives, it states objectives inside a garrison may only be interacted with by a unit inside the same garrison, and scan tokens can only be generated by non-aircraft transports which can't enter a garrison. I'm not going to read all this because I'm sure you're sick of listening to me, but clearly it generates a scan token, and the scan token is then given to the infantry unit which uses it. Sorry about that.
Nope,
Yeah,
that's
no,
a good summation.
I know it's very emotional, but
This cold is definitely bringing out some emotions, I assure you of that.
Hold on, I'm getting verklempt. Talk amongst yourselves.
I don't know what I was actually hacking over what Gordo said, so I don't know how he was mocking me.
Coffee lady.
Oh. It sounded like you were doing your best Val Kilmer from Tombstone for a second there, and I was kind of flattered.
I mean, that's kind of what Mike Myers doing the coffee lady sounds like.
Now, reading the FAQ, the next question intrigues me based off of an earlier discussion we had before recording.
Well, by all means, let's move on. If a unit carrying an objective is destroyed, do they drop the objective within 2 inches of their location before they are removed, or is it just dropped where the unit was at the time it was destroyed and removed?
Did we just skip the scan one?
No, we just did the scan one.
Jesus, Jordan, are you drunk?
I guess.
Yeah,
The unit
you
drops the
higher
objective
guys.
within 2 inches of its location, following the rules for mobile objectives on page 280. A squad can drop an objective at any time, including when forced to by an opponent.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, just a model so a unit in the squad accepts the objective, but the squad carries the objective. So how do you determine which one's dead?
Well, it doesn't matter because if you're talking about an infantry base, it's immediately an
I'm
instant
talking
pass.
tanks.
Well, it doesn't specify that they carry them any different. So if you use the same logic, it's going to stay in the squad.
Does it say squad or unit?
It says the squad carries the objective.
Yeah, but the unit drops it.
But the unit is only there for accepting
Are
and
you
receiving.
Are you reading too much into that? In that, it's the assumption is that an infantry unit went into a garrison and searched for the objective and brought it out. Not that there was a hidden objective and the tank was driving around looking for it, which just saying that out loud sounds incredibly stupid. But it's a potentially real scenario.
So it's the wording is, if a mobile objective has been claimed by an infantry vehicle unit, their squad automatically counts as carrying it.
The objective is moved with the squad.
Yeah, so the squad counts as carrying it. So if a unit is destroyed, it must be the last unit of that squad for you to drop it.
So by that logic, if I have my immortals pass the objective out of the building to my sweet brick of Ares that I have spread out 12 inches across the board, and Patrick's like, screw that noise, I am ocelotting that Ares that just got the objective, I can be like, ha! You did, but it got passed all the way down to the 6th Ares in the line, who's behind the building, and you can't see him.
That is
Exactly.
how I seem to be reading this.
Yes, that's exactly what happens. And also, you can give it to the first guy that is close to the building, but he then automatically passes it on to the end of the line guy of this conga line of 9 hunters, 18 inches away, whatever the coherence is. What's the coherence of hunters?
There's no wide anymore, so everything's 3 or base to base.
Yeah, so the 9
is
hunters can be
or is
20.
2?
Or is it 2?
Yeah, so somewhere around 20 inches away, in principle. But the same thing here then, the unit doesn't drop it, it's the squad that's dropping it. But let's say it's the last unit of the squad, it drops it. But the funny thing here also is that we say that a unit can drop also if they fail a fortitude test when they want to leave a building or things like that. But you can pass the objective over at any point during your activation. So you can activate, you roll your fortitude test and you say, oh crap, I failed it. Then I pass it on to the next squad, which will try to leave the building. So you can try until you leave it. Because what happens to the objective when you drop it?
It just goes on the ground. It becomes a open objective.
Yeah, but if it's in a garrison that is occupied by friendly and enemy forces, for example.
That's automatically picked up.
By which side?
If you drop it when trying to leave, it's automatically picked up by the enemy.
Does it say that?
I believe that's covered on page 280-ish. But wait a minute, I'll go check.
Yeah.
Do.
Were you just singing Baby Shark?
No, that's do.
Did that sound any different to either of you two?
I did.
It's it's subtle but distinct, like between version 1 and version 2.
You know, like when Vanilla Ice was like,
I
theirs
was
is like,
just going there. It's that she at the end.
So if you destroy someone with a close quarter weapon, then you can claim the objective automatically.
Son of a bitch, Jordan. A unit may only have one scan token at a time.
Yes, the infantry using that searches never carries a scan token. when an infantry searches, it can use any scan tokens that are
Available
on any amount of units that are within 2 inches of it.
Yes.
So
Sorry, I had myself muted.
take your 4 Mercury drones and your 2 ground transports, and you have a +6 modifier to your search roll for your PHR.
Eventually, you won't roll a 1, so, you know.
Okay, Patrick. Open objectives, page 280. These objectives are easy to see and obtain if a friendly infantry or vehicle unit in coherency is within 2 inches of the objective or in the same garrison as it, they claim the objective. Objectives can be reclaimed by other players if they meet these criteria, and there are no enemy units.
But these are mobile objectives. And that says that specifically if you destroy it with a close quarter weapon, then you claim it automatically.
Well, here's an interesting one too. A squad may only carry one objective at a time, which means that sweet Ares brick can only carry that one objective.
Yeah, but then you throw it away to the next one in the line. You conga line it all the way to the corner where you move it off.
If squad is in garrison, it cannot be dropped outside of the garrison. A dropped objective automatically becomes unclaimed. If a squad is out of coherency at the end of the activation or fails a fortitude test, it automatically drops any objective it was carrying. If a squad carrying an objective is destroyed, they drop the objective before being removed. If destroyed by close quarter weapons, that unit claims the objective automatically instead. If a squad carrying an objective is destroyed whilst in an aircraft, the objective is destroyed too. Did that answer your question?
Nope.
No.
If you drop the objective and you are nowhere near it, it becomes an unclaimed open objective.
But if you are in a garrison with friendly and enemy forces in it, and your guys fail the fortitude test, so they drop the objective when they leave, which side claims the objective and which squad?
My brain just twitched.
I don't know, man. I didn't write these rules.
I would
personally,
I would rule it as that the player the squad that activates afterwards that's inside the garrison can claim the objective automatically. That would be my ruling on it.
Okay, well then one step further, I have a squad that is I have 2 immortals in the building, and I activate them, and the one goes to leave, and it makes its fortitude check, and it fails, so it drops it. So I still have a squad in the building. Does that mean I keep the objective, or
yes? If you activate that squad, then you get another chance to try to escape.
Even if Gordo's got more resistance fighters in there than I have immortals.
As long as you can run away, escape.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if I had more than you, if we were equal.
Well, this isn't like version 1, though, where it's like, I outnumber you, so I control the garrison, you're not going anywhere. I can still just be like, I'm going to make a fortitude test and leave.
Yep.
Which, if I have sirens, then I roll a 2 or higher and I walk out, so I would fail every time.
But your sirens will be dead because he went in with his berserkers and killed you.
Well, yeah, because they have 6 DP and a dodge of 2, but he's throwing 60 dice at me, and I don't get to shoot back until after he's killed me.
Yeah, you're putting forth a weird scenario where 2 infantry squads are in the same building at the same time.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen in version 2.
Maybe not. Yeah, it's one thing that is unclear that might need a future clarification, but I think TOs can probably do a reasonably good ruling on that one.
That was fun breaking that. So next up is, can an infantry squad enter and then exit a garrison in the same activation as part of their moving action? The answer is no. An infantry squad ends its moving action when it enters a garrison. An infantry squad may, however, exit a garrison and be within 2 inches of another garrison and enter that one in the same movement. If it's that close, well, no, if it's that close, it doesn't necessarily mean it's linked. But
So, again, this is a little confusing because it's specifying as part of their moving action. So you can still have the landed aerial transport that dumps it into the building.
no, they have to move out of the building. Then the aerial transport can pick it up.
And then
they're out of movement, though.
Yes, the aerial transport then lands, stays landed, and dumps them into the building.
It can't. They had to use their activation to get out of the building. Their movement is done. So the aerial transport has to use its one free embark or disembark to pick them up. Then it can land, but the transport can't disembark anymore. And the troops are out of movement, so they can't get out. This is where Shaltari mobility comes in.
Yeah,
right.
Because they can use a separate transport to dump them out.
And that is also one interesting thing. What happens to an objective when a infantry unit is gated out?
Oh shit! Yeah, what does happen to it? Well, Fluff in version 1, they couldn't gate objectives because they didn't have the teleportation webbing.
Exactly, they do now.
Objectives gate with Braves.
So it does not specify what happens. So the unit that is in holding, is that unit outside of the battlefield?
I don't know, man. I don't know anybody holding anymore. I'm too old for that shit.
I'm gonna abuse that heavily.
No shit, you are. I mean, I'm gonna leave a spirit or a haven spirit or a haven gate on the back inch of the board all the time and be like, I picked out that objective and I took it off the board in that transport.
Yep.
You're never going to have to worry about getting an objective off board because in that next turn that transport will come back and wash, rinse, repeat.
Yep.
Poof. So, in case you didn't hate Shaltari already,
prepare to do it now.
What happened to transition units? Screw you and your transition units. That's what happened. We don't have time for transforming units in version 2. They are gone. They are gone. That's why there's 2 versions of the Hell Hog, and that's why it didn't really impact Apollos. Apollos got better for it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Can units with a bonus transport capacity carry units from another battle group? No, they operate just like transports from Drop Zone version 1. They can only carry units in their battle group, which is why the Nord gets screwed. Just saying it slowly and again because apparently it just falls on deaf ears. It's a fucking assault transport that can only transport like 4 Odins because it takes up the other heavy slot in the assault group.
So it still has a purpose. All right. So it still works.
It still has a purpose.
Transport.
If you want to waste a shit ton of points, it has a purpose. You're better off saving that heavy slot and grabbing a pair of Enyo with a quartet of Odins and then putting them on a Poseidon so that you can actually do some legitimate damage for roughly the same point costing.
You say this, but Rasmus is going to show up with like 3 Nords and 12 Odins. And
I think you invoke Rasmus like Rasmus has any rules that apply to him. Rasmus could show up with an army of Janus and win. That's just what he does.
But overall, there, I think it is a very restrictive thing where they have put that specific unit. But you can still use like armor groups or support groups carrying it, but it feels a little stupid.
The piece of shit Thunderstorm suffers from this as well.
Yeah, but that's
I just didn't want
deserved.
you to think I forgot about your giant stupid POS unit.
Yeah, but it's a heavy. I mean, yeah, it's a heavy, but
how often will that carry heavy units?
I didn't find any trouble in having it able to haul
Yeah.
gun wagons or rocket
That piece of
launchers.
shit carries every list Jordan's ever run.
Yeah.
I mean, it seemed awful sneaky, easy, abusive that I could have gun wagons on a.
Yep.
On a
Speaking of
Thunderstorm.
sneaky and easy, is there a battle group limit? And the answer is no. Which makes me wonder why I'm putting 2 squads of Immortals in a battle group when I can have 4 squads of Immortals or 4 battle groups of Immortals instead of 2. And then I can just out-activate you.
You are correct.
That's cheeky. Your command value is irrelevant because as long as you have more battle groups, you can get more activations, which means you can activation screw people.
Yep.
That's a really shitty abuse. Patrick,
Yes.
how many battle groups do you think you can get together by a Michigan Grand Tournament?
At least 7. That's the question if I can squeeze in a behemoth somewhere or not.
You think there's anything going to be public in the next month?
No. I'll just
well,
make my own rules.
You are limited by battle group types, so I guess I would have to look a little closer. I may not be able to...
So you have the actual limitation is 7, because that's how many groups you can have. Then you can have 2 war engine groups and 9 when behemoths come out.
Gotcha.
So you might say that no, there is no limitation, but yes, there is.
Can I transfer all units out of the HQ battle group, such as the PHR Heras? So the retinue rule is
Retinue?
retinue.
Are we French?
We're American, so our language literally rummages through the pockets of other languages for loose grammar.
We actually had this argument once and had to. We even looked up the French pronunciation.
Retinue.
Yeah.
Retinier.
I'm sorry, I got waylaid there. So I used this rule and I moved my Hera over to my armored group to attach them to a quartet of Apollos in a Poseidon. And it worked fine, and I still had a Valkyrie squad in my command group, so I didn't lose that activation. I don't know that I like this rule. I feel like it dilutes your list building options more than they've already been diluted as a PHR player. Because we've lost the ability to mix and match our walkers in our groups, so the lists are getting really vanilla.
Personally, I feel that this is more a case of, this is hard to code into our list builder, so let's remove it.
Yeah, I don't have a solid answer for that, but I find this to be a frustration from a player perspective. It really, really hampers my list building. This is not one of those, it'll change the meta bullshit situations. This is one of those changes for the sake of changes, and it doesn't just affect the PHR. The PHR are hit the hardest by it because their walkers were always, you picked the group and you mixed and matched walkers, and that was the end of it. But this also affects stuff like Wolverine A's and Wolverine B's and soon to be Wolverine C's.
As a Scourge player, I have no opinion on this rule.
Right, this doesn't impact you in the least, but UCM gets a little bit of frustration out of it, and PHR, this is just... I feel like PHR is just like getting kicked in the dick repeatedly with version 2, but that's really frustrating to me. That's another one of my frustrations with PHR list building. I'm hoping we'll see at least like some point reductions to make up for how, hobbled we're getting, but whatever. Is Focus X supposed to work only for a given unit or for a whole squad? If only for the unit, then Scourge Vampires and UCM Star Sprite drones can't use this ability because they have only one shot for their weapon. Focus applies to the weapon a unit shoots. The example given in Battle for Earth uses squad instead of units. We're aware of the issue with these units and have added them to our list of units to be looked at for our next batch of balance changes. I'm sorry, I haven't built a decent UCM list, and maybe I missed this. Does this mean that even though Star Sprites have focus, the squads don't combine?
So they've since added the special rule.
Yeah. So it's a core rule issue where you needed to have it on these since they are small units that combine their fire. So that it's a squad level focus, but the rules didn't allow for that, and they had not realized that, so they needed to change it as a special rule on each unit instead of changing the core rule.
Yeah, so now there's a new rule called squad focus.
Yeah.
This unit focus ability can be used to combine shots from its whole squad.
Yeah.
So when they said in the next balance changes, that's what they mean. They just added it.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Is reduced correct? Can I go above Energy 13 with this rule? Let me get my soapbox out. Yes and yes. However, if something is found to be too powerful, we shall look at changing the unit stats themselves rather than the rule. Yeah, that's something that needs to be looked at because Valkyries blowing up drop ships with submachine guns, blowing up tanks with submachine guns is just stupid.
Yeah,
it's not cool. It's not cinematic. It's barely fun.
Yeah. Two bases of any infantry easily doubling up any aerial transport is bad juju.
Yeah. Correct.
Except my fish slappers, they can never kill anything still.
I'm still waiting for the Pungari race, like army.
Yeah.
Just all Pungari.
It'll be the true swarm army.
But
I hope the Pungari generals are like cave trolls from Lord of the Rings.
But this is the typical one of these rules where I feel that the guys in Sheepland, they have invested a lot of their prestige into saying that this is one of our rules that we have changed that we can't back on, even though that they still say that, we see that there are some issues with this, but we won't back down on the special rule that we have invested all this prestige in.
The fact that we have to clarify and explain this rule so much makes it far less streamlined than having reduced and small arms being separate rules.
Yeah.
And I know so much of this was, we're going to reduce the number of rules and streamline the game, but that's not how it's working because now we're adding rules in to fix shit that we changed that didn't need changing in the first place.
Yeah.
So, but I digest. If I can land a transport within 2 inches of a building, can they embark garrison infantry units within the building from another battle group? No. The infantry unit will have to wait for its own activation to exit the building and embark into the transport. After failing a fortitude test, can my infantry squad embark into an airborne transport? No. If you choose to embark that squad, it must do so into a ground transport or aerial transport that has already landed.
Yep.
The emphasis on landed and not landed is a little frustrating. I feel like we're going to need TT to release tokens so we can mark whether these transports are landed or not.
Yeah.
Just take them off the widget and set them down.
I'm going to take you off the widget. You keep your shit up.
Yeah, that's one of these things where it becomes a little bit too complicated that you need to start landing things beforehand to enable these super chains.
Which is the opposite of streamlining. It's a convolution to the rules that we weren't dealing with from V1. With aerial transports, with the access rule, can I land within 2 inches of a building, embark the garrison squad, then have them disembark from another transport into another building to search for the objectives? We got ahead of ourselves because we already talked about this. We know that's a yes, and we understand how that whole chain works. Yeah. How does collateral damage work? I'm finding it a bit confusing. With a flow chart. No. I think Jordan and I, after looking through the rules, we had an understanding on collateral damage pretty easily. You shoot the building. I'm not going to look at the writing, and I'm going to let Patrick correct me when I screw it up. You shoot the building, either with a Devastator scenery, or you get a critical on the building, and you add a collateral token at that point. If there are infantry in that building, you resolve the collateral token immediately. You randomly decide if it's against the infantry or the structure. If you are successful with that collateral token, it remains. If you fail, the collateral token goes away. If there were no infantry in the building in the roundup phase, you resolve it. If there are infantry in the building in the roundup phase, you still resolve it again with the same process. If it succeeds, randomly assign it. If it fails, it is removed. Is that right, Patrick?
That is more or less. You are missing the flame exception to that explanation, but close to.
Yeah, we didn't have any flame weapons when we played, so.
Yeah.
Flame weapons target units within the building, so collateral damage caused is resolved in the roundup phase, not instantly. Weird. Same with any weapons targeting units within the building rather than the building itself.
And so the thing here is that, of course, damage a unit. Is that damage before or after saves / dodges?
Well,
I would say after.
I would assume that collateral works much the same way as any other attack. So if the collateral is going to hit the infantry, I would assume the infantry would get a passive save against it, wouldn't they?
Yeah, so you get the passive save, but for the purposes of if the collateral stays or not.
Right. Did it damage? Well, yes, but they made their save.
Yeah.
So is it damaged or is it saved?
Yeah.
I'd say if they make their saves, no damage. Or it doesn't count anymore.
Yeah, it fails. It goes away.
Yeah. So sirens dodging building blocks make the building more firm.
More sturdy.
Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly.
Yeah.
I'm gonna argue that point in that because the collateral damage such a low probability of damaging the building that it just means once they dodge it forever. Because collateral damage doesn't damage the building.
Yeah, 6s.
Yeah.
So when you have added 20 plus collateral damages from your area weapon spam. Oh no, wait, they changed the unit for that one, so you can't have them.
Well, so you can cause a collateral damage and the brick falls and the siren gets out of the way, but eventually the siren goes back downstairs and gets hit by the brick again. Right?
Yeah.
The siren takes the brick and, unable to abide the mess you've created, immediately remortars the building.
So for every
She's
successful
you don't
dodge
mess up
save.
this house. If my opponent plays the Deploy Flares command card, what happens if I choose to use the Incendiary Rounds command card? My eyes popped out of my head reading this. So first off, do you guys know what these cards do?
Yes, because this came from my game against Jessup.
Okay. Well, then I'll let you explain this because my eyes kind of popped out of my head reading it, going, "Wait, what?"
So the rules are a little not very well stated for what happens when you deal with rerolls.
No.
Well, I mean, it's stated one way, but how we came to this answer was rather long and convoluted. So you roll to hit. The player does the deploy flares card, and off the top of my head, that makes them re-roll to hit. I should have had these. I've got the cards in front. Well, it's going to take me a minute.
Deploy
to get through
flares makes them re-roll any successes they had,
or damage, yeah. And then they roll the damage, and then you've got the re-rolls. Only the successful damage dice due to the deploy flares, and does not re-roll any dice that missed. So then you play the incendiary rounds, which would then allow you to, of the dice that missed initially, let you re-roll those.
Correct.
And then you allocate the damage.
So say that if you have 10 dice and you hit 5 and you miss 5, he deploys plays that card, so you have to re-roll the 5 hits that you have, and
Correct.
then you have 3 hits remaining, and in total 7 misses, but 5 of those misses are original misses. You play that card, then you can only re-roll the 5 original misses, not the 2 ones that has already been re-rolled, because you can't re-roll twice.
Right.
So building on this, how does incendiary rounds work with infantry going in and shooting the turn they enter a building?
They don't do anything. You can play the card, but it will do nothing because you can never re-roll the re-rolls.
Yep.
So can you abuse that and re-roll the do you get a... See, that's the interpretation. Like, you could re-roll the fails.
Well, so here, this is some behind the scenes magic. In order to get to the state, basically the book doesn't determine if like rolling the dice is like a sequence or if you're just talking about the physical roll.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about the dice as a physical roll for this, like you roll for the damage. That damage is now the roll.
But
so anything that would affect that roll, you can't re-roll.
But if you look at it like this, then when can you play incendiary rounds? Does it say that you need to have resolved your complete damage action, or can you play it before you re-roll?
I want to say you can do it after you shoot.
It's supposed to be to re-roll any shots that missed.
Yeah,
so
because
I guess question
yeah.
number one is applying it to CQB. Is it even possible?
Yeah, because yeah,
you no, it's that fail to damage.
Yeah, it's on the damage roll.
It's on the damage.
But since you have to re-roll your damage rolls, but if you say, haha, before I re-roll those damage rolls, I play this card, so I will re-roll all my misses, and these can't be re-rolled again.
Well, it doesn't matter because they're re-rolled.
But what Patrick's saying,
I was saying that first, damn it.
Yeah, no, I follow. I gotta go grab the deck. Give me 1 second.
No, I've got the card. I'm got it like right here in front of me.
Read it to us, sir.
All right, we're doing incendiary rounds. When a friendly squad makes a shooting action after it rolls to damage, the squad re-rolls any of those failed damage rolls.
Okay, well, I guess the first question is there even a shooting action within CQ?
Yes.
Is there? Because there's only a damage action. There's no shooting because you don't actually shoot.
It's an automatic hit. It is a shooting automatic hit.
Okay, so...
And you are forced to re-roll all those
when you're assaulting. So you can use incendiary rounds in a turn in which you did not assault into a building.
Because I insult my opponent every turn.
So what's the language on incendiary rounds? What's the timing of playing it?
When a friendly squad makes a shooting action after all rolls to damage. So after all the rolls to damage.
But say that now you have the situation again. I have 10 dice. I roll all 10 dice. 5 of them damage, and 5 don't damage. I just entered this building, so I need to re-roll all successful damage rolls. So I take those 5 dice and re-roll them. Then I play this card, and I can re-roll the 5 original misses.
So, and this is where I was saying that it's a little unclear, but they're treating all damage rolls in one pile. Doesn't matter.
But I have only
No, that's not what the errata says.
Exactly. And
no, that's what they're saying.
The errata says that you re-roll all failed damage dice from the original roll.
Yeah.
No other failed damage dice are re-rolled as they have
So
already
you have to
once to deploy fairs.
Yeah. So you have to roll each die and remember and take away those dice that have been re-rolled, so you don't re-roll them again.
Right.
So if I throw 10 dice, if I miss with 5 of them, and you say, okay, re-roll those 5, and I hit with another 4, and you say, okay, deploy flares.
But deploy flares happens before all this.
Oh.
But
when does deploy flares happen?
Hold on. Where did that card go? It's when you are getting shot at.
Yeah, so it's before he starts rolling for damage. You say,
is deploy flares for damage rolls, or is deploy
it's for damage rolls.
Yeah. But you play the card before you roll the damage rolls,
and it makes you re-roll any success.
But in principle, what's actually happening here is that if you play incendiary rounds, the round that you actually enter the building, you should just take all dice, roll them, and then you take up all the dice and roll them again.
No, because you can't re-roll or re-roll.
No, but that's actually what's happening. Look at this. If I enter the building and I roll 10 dice, 5 of them hit, I am forced to re-roll those 5 because I just entered the building.
Right.
The 5s that miss, I play incendiary rounds, so I get to re-roll those 5.
Yes.
So I roll 10 dice again.
No, you go to re-roll the 5 that did not
5.
No, you only get to do the 5 that did not damage because they're treating it as
because he's saying you're making him re-roll the 5 that missed. He's using incendiary rounds. Are you making him re-roll the 5 that hit? He's using incendiary rounds to re-roll the 5 that missed.
No, we're using wrong terms because it's not hits, it's damage. This is all damage.
Yeah, but damage doesn't matter.
Okay, so you're making him re-roll the damages that were successful. He's making himself re-roll the damages that were unsuccessful. So at the end of it, he's re-rolling all the dice.
Yeah, but you can't re-roll damage that was unsuccessful previously.
But that's what incendiary rounds does, and they've only been rolled once.
Yeah.
Because since they missed, he didn't have to re-roll them.
And those 5 that missed initially, he can re-roll.
Yeah,
that's what we just said.
No, Patrick keeps sneaking in 10.
No,
you don't re-roll the 10.
No. You have to re-roll the first 5 because of the assault rule.
Right.
And then incendiary rounds let you...
You can't even use deploy flares.
Well, you can. It's just that it does nothing.
Right.
No.
So when you're assaulting a building, deploy flares is irrelevant to use, period, because you're forcing them to re-roll and they'll never re-roll more than once. Yeah. Unless they come in, they throw their 10 dice and they hit with 5 and they have to re-roll those 5. And then they pull out incendiary rounds. Well, no, because if they pull out incendiary rounds and re-roll, you can't even pull out deploy flares to make them re-roll that. Because you've already re-rolled.
Mathematically, it should just cancel out the re-roll.
Yeah.
Well, no, because here's the catch. Incendiary rounds happens after all damage rolls. Whereas, like, the cover rolls or the assault rolls and the deploy flares gets triggered much earlier in the phase.
These are 2 of 30 cards in the fucking deck. They shouldn't run into each other anyways.
Yeah. But I do get what Patrick's saying.
Yeah.
The way it's worded with incendiary rounds, it's essentially you re-roll everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the ending note to this FAQ, I think. Fact is.
Was the FAQ worth the 3-month wait? Jordan.
Sort of. Yes.
Josh.
Yes.
That was a convincing yes. Patrick.
Well, I mean, I'll expand if you want.
Yeah. So the big question here is a donut worth 3 months wait? Well, it's still a donut.
Well, a 3-month-old donut is not worth the wait. That's disgusting. I'm a fat guy. I'm kind of a connoisseur on donuts.
Yeah.
Josh, you want to elaborate?
So, why there was some hesitation there. Part of it stems from the playtest experience. And then not knowing what the answers were for a lot of these for the longest time, right? So, now the community has all these answers. I'm glad games can get played. I'm glad that there's going to be less confusion about everything. I know Gen Con, there was a lot of questions about how things operated. I think this fact does do a lot to help with that. I really like that they're doing the every 6 months they're doing a unit pass on the balance of different units throughout everybody's armies. I think the game with this errata is very playable. I think there's a lot that can be fun there. I think I still have trouble giving up the version 1 or beta rules to making this transition to version 2, and that's just going to be more games to be played. But I think one of the big things is, as you said, there's now not as much of a hard sci-fi feel going into what version 2 is going to be expanding upon.
Yeah, Jordan and I kind of hit on that in the YouTube video the other day too. I think he mentioned the rock paper scissor element of version 1 versus that's gone. There is no rock paper scissor here. Everything can kill everything.
No, not everything kill everything.
Most everything can kill most everything.
I said rock, scissors.
Yeah. Some of that list building nuance is gone.
AA units are the scissors, and infantry and tanks are the rock and rock.
Yeah.
Yeah, list building nuance is kind of gone. I made a realization after Jordan and I played the other night too. I brought a Hades, and there's no reason to bring a Hades at all. I should have ditched that Hades and replaced it with a couple of Aether. Because why not? Everything's a large blast template now. And it's an indirect weapon. Mercury drones are an automatic include, and Aethers are an automatically include, and then it's just everything dies.
Yeah, and then more Valkyries.
And then more Valkyries, always more Valkyries.
And Medusa.
Yep.
You should sprinkle in a couple Medusa because they're not that much more expensive than a lot of your walkers, and
they're 100 points. They're the same price as a squad of Valkyrie or a squad of Sirens.
I will say after this balance pass, I think the armies are a lot more competitive against each other.
Yeah, and I was about to say I don't know that the errata was worth the wait, but I do know that the unit rebalance was at least worth the wait. That was something that was needed.
Yeah, we haven't gone into that too much here, but there is a lot of changes to the units that make the units more viable and fixes a lot of issues with the units.
Well, originally when we got version 2 back at Origins, there was a discussion that we were going to do a unit deep dive per faction, and we put that off until the errata because of just what a mess everything really was. I'm more confident about doing that now. I think that I'm hoping it's not 6 months. I hope they'd look at it again within 3 months, just because 6 months is a long time to let a game sit, especially since we know there are releases coming. I think letting it sit for 6 months would be a mistake, but I think a lot of things are mistakes. So I guess we'll see how long it sits.
My argument for the Medusa wasn't necessarily versus another infantry unit. It was how good of how mobile it is. Is it?
Oh, it's just
sort of survivable anti-tank unit outside that moves really fast.
Yeah, as a PHR player, it's kind of like the Corruptor. If you're a Scourge player, you bring Corruptors. You bring Medusa.
An auto healing, damage 10, focused. I have 10 shots that focus, that also are flame.
Yeah.
But our dropship's still a heavy.
Come on, PHR finding those objectives on 2+. That is some sweet PHR tech right there.
Only if I bring Mercury drones, and I didn't, and I'm going to have to. I'm gonna have to stop using Tritons. I'm going to have to build more fucking Junos, which I swore on my child's birth that I wouldn't build any more Junos. Now I'm going to have to build Junos.
Yeah.
How many do you have to build? You only need like 4.
That's twice as many as I have now. I had to build those bastards and I had to paint them.
So yeah, version 2. I mean, we've talked and touched on this, but you just are bringing more infantry. That seems to be the case for version 2. It's different. I don't think it's bad. I don't. I think it's a sidestep. It's not.
It's a matter of opinion and play preference, really. Different isn't necessarily bad. Some people do seem to like the new CQB. I think if it was simultaneous, I would have no problems with the new CQB. But right now, it's way too Alpha Strike, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I know if I put infantry in a building, I'm not confident that they're going to survive to do searching next turn.
Precisely.
But somebody's got to be there. So we'll see what 6 months from now brings.
Bolt action?
Well, I actually ordered that on Friday, so.
Is it British?
It is British.
I actually get to play Infinity tomorrow. I had to brush the dust off of my US Ariadna. And then I had to brush the dust off my book and my dice. I'm like, shit, I don't remember how to play this game.
I actually had a planned game of Drop Fleet coming, but we'll see what happens with that.
Well, yeah, I guess. I mean, it's definitely somewhat playable now. It is more playable than it was.
Yeah.
Which is important.
Yeah.
But it's a different game. It's a different, a completely different animal. I think it was Rich, the guy that runs Green Stuff Industries, that posted they changed checkers or chess to checkers. And I think that's a good metaphor. It really is. There are plenty of times where I've looked at the tournament pack for a drop zone tournament, and I've said, okay, these are my missions, and the game started that month or 3 in advance of custom tailoring that list.
Yeah.
To accommodate as best I could those 3 missions, and considering what factions I might face based off of, community members that I knew that were going to go and their play styles and whatnot. Of course, I wasn't any good at it because I lost all the tournaments, but that I don't feel that level is there. One, because I don't know that anybody's playing it right now. I don't see much activity in the Ohio group. I don't see a lot of activity in the main group. So that's a concern. That where's the community at? It's a brand new edition of the game. We're supposed to have brand new models. I've put out a battle report. Has anyone else seen any other battle reports?
I had one 3 weeks back, but that was just like 2 starter sets on 2 starter sets.
Hot starter on starter action. The London Grand Tournament boasted 4 players. Origins Game Fair boasted 4 players, and I'm always disappointed when it does.
Michigan GT looks like it's going to trump that.
Well, yeah, GT's already at 3 or 4 times that.
Well, the Midwest has a very strong drop fleet presence, so I feel like more games are played here than probably anywhere else.
It's almost like we're the beating heart and soul of drop zone.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far.
Hey, but we are not enough sheep to be recognized.
Well, we're running really long. We're creeping up on an hour and 40 minutes. So I guess this is where I'll throw out does anyone have any final thoughts on V2/this Errata? Gordo?
Do I ever have any final thoughts?
That's why I always start with you. Overlord CVAC?
No, I think I've said my piece. The only little thing I'll add is there's the Stellaris Kickstarter starting tomorrow for anybody who's out there who wants one of those Aether Drakes.
Woo! I'm good.
Aether or Ether? It's not the AE. It's just an E.
Whatever it is.
So does that make it an Ether Drake?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So there's a subtle difference between Aether and Ether.
Yes.
Yeah. Ether is that stuff that we have proved does not exist.
One of them smells like chloroform, right?
One's magically delicious. One's all sci-fi.
One is used to prove the flat Earth.
Patrick, any final thoughts?
I'm pretty sure the Earth is not flat.
Well,
Have you looked at a gaming table? They're flat.
You pose convincing arguments.
did anyone see the
That's all the
The-
cosmology that had all the other planets and then flat Earth.
anyone see the meme of the Death Star trench and it says no curve, flat Death Star?
No exhaust port. Fake news.
Well, I guess my only final thought is I got to play that game of Gordo, which made me feel. I mean, it's no denying I was down on this game. I was not happy in a lot of ways, and I'm still not happy in a lot of ways. But I'm better than I was. I feel partially like a 40K player. It's not that I'm in love with the rules. It's that I have 4.5 armies, and I don't know what the hell to do with them if I like rage quit the game. Short of like setting them on fire. But I don't want to be that guy that burned all of his Warhammer Fantasy stuff when Age of Sigmar came out. No, I think there's definitely been progress made with the game, and I think that with some tweaks, it can be a very sound and playable edition. I don't think this edition goes 5 years. I don't know that this edition goes 2 years. I think that I think if they keep it more checkers than chess, then they're going to lose a lot of the old players that have been playing it, and then I don't know that they have a bunch of new players coming in to play it. If that makes sense.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if down the road they have a PDF version of it. I mean, they have Rumble Slam on the website for free that you can download for the rules. I mean, like we already said, the rules are only really 15 pages long or so.
Yeah. Well, and they're a company that's about selling models, not selling books. So, let's stop making it about the book. Let's just make it about the rules and sell some models.
Yeah, or playing tournaments.
I like playing in tournaments.
But that's not what the company is about.
Well, and they need to. I'm not saying they need a talent program, but I'm saying that they need someone in the community to actually give a shit about the game.
Yeah.
And that was one of the cool things about the Talons, and that was a cool thing about being a Talent was it was like the company was saying, "Hey, thanks, we're encouraging you to encourage people to try and play our game." And
yeah,
it's a big deal. I don't know, Josh. You play a lot of War Machine. You had press gangers. Did you find them to be useful to your community?
You know what? I'm okay with there not being a Hawk Talon program or a press ganger program per se. I mean, I used to run in Ohio the vast majority of 40K tournaments 10 years back. To me, it was never about like running and the program and getting like benefits and stuff. What I think the bigger thing is knowing that TT Combat has my back in being able to offer something, be it balanced rules, a great tournament environment. Those were more what I enjoyed when I ran tournaments. So I don't know. I don't fault them for not having a talent program.
Then get the no. I'm kidding.
Yeah, well, difference of opinions. I know.
No, and you're right. But to what you said, do you feel like they do have your back? Like like you are supported in the idea of running events for this game?
That's a hard question because I have Don.
Right.
Any events that I'm attending around here, when they show up at the big events, LVO, Depticon, Michigan GT, London GT. I mean, they gave out a lot of nice stuff to the attendees. So I think being there at the actual events, like you do feel TT Combat's presence. For if you're running just at your store and you're somewhere North Carolina or something. I mean, I don't know that there's going to be a lot of outreach from TT Combat. Now that being said, when Lewis was out here 2 years ago for Adepticon, before I joined with the play testers. Was it Louis?
Yeah, Lewis was at Gen Con last year. Lewis was at Adepticon year before last.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Lewis. He said, well, if you're running a tournament, hit me up. So by the time I actually got around to running my big tournament, Don was able to make the drive down, so I didn't need to bother Lewis. So if you're running a tournament, well, hit up Lewis. See what they can do for you.
I'm still not sure which one you're talking about because Louis was at Adepticon and Lewis was at Gen Con.
Yeah.
Whoever was at Adepticon 2 years ago.
Okay.
Louis
is the guy that owns the company. And Lewis is the guy that writes rules.
Okay. Then Louis. Hit up Louis.
In America, both of them are pronounced Lewis. But in the rest of the world, it's Louis and Lewis.
Hit up the French king.
Josh isn't good with French.
No, I'm not.
No.
I'm not good with American.
Well, guys, this is by far the longest freaking episode we recorded in a long time. Are you guys interested in coming back in part or whole for the deep dives? Maybe Josh, you want to take a crack at doing Scourge, and
sure,
take a crack at Shoutari, and no one cares about UCM, and I can bitch for days about PHR, and no one cares about Resistance. So, actually, there was
fun.
I feel like Resistance is underrepresented on these podcasts.
Yeah, try to play a non-broken faction, Jordan. See how you do. All right, guys. Well, I think we should go ahead and wrap this up before my computer explodes on me.
Yeah. I'm getting angry eyes from my wife here.
When you get angry eyes from the wife, it's time to call it a night.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining us and going through the errata. Listeners, I hope you found this entertaining and helpful. And please like the show and follow us on whatever media you're listening to us on and help us increase our sphere of influence. Good night, gentlemen.
Good night.
Have a good one.